Place à la conférence de presse de Wonderstruck.
So now, the press conference of Wonderstruck.
I'll remind you of the routine. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand a little bit ahead of time so we can see you, so we can direct the microphones to you. And when you have the microphone, please stand up, introduce yourselves, ask your question, sit down, and give the mic back. Thank you very much. Comme d'habitude, si vous voulez poser une question, soyez assez aimable de vous lever, de nous faire signe un petit peu à l'avance, de façon à ce qu'on puisse vous donner le micro. Quand vous aurez le micro, levez-vous, présentez-vous, posez votre question, rasseyez-vous et rendez le micro. Merci. Hello everyone and welcome to the press conference for Todd Haynes' new movie, Wonderstruck. And since A, our time is limited, and B, there are many people here at this table and also in the front row, I will just cut to the chase. Behind the camera, I'll start with people behind the camera sitting next to me and next to her. Two of the producers, Pamela Koffler and Christine Vachon. Sitting at the end of the table, another producer, different titles, different capacity, John Sloss. Sitting next to him, but part one, and I'll get back to you later, sir. The man who wrote the book on which the film is based, that's Brian Selznick. Then in no specific order, because I have no idea how they decided to sit, in front of us, front row, Ed Lachman, cinematographer, if you don't mind standing up. Brian Bell, executive producer, wherever you are. Sandy Powell, executive producer and costume designer. Composer Carter Burwell, if he is on the front row. Is he? I don't know. Okay, I'm not told anything. Laura Rosenthal, casting director. Production designer Mark Friedberg. And our interpreter for today, in sign language, Miss Lynette Taylor. And I'll get back now to this table and introduce people who are in front of the camera. As Mom, if I dare call you Mom, Elaine Michelle Williams. Sitting next to her, Millicent Simmonds. As Rose at the age of 12. Skip one, sitting next to the director, as Rose at the age of beyond 60. And as younger Lillian Mayhew, Miss Julianne Moore. Sitting next to her, Jaden Michael as Jamie. Then back to the gentleman who's sitting next to Mr. Sloss, and that's Brian Selznick, part two. You're the script writer, and it must have been one hell of a script to write.
Well, the original book is written half in text and half in pictures.
Sequel, after I introduce the director.
Oh.
The director, Todd Haynes. as you were saying, Mr. Selznick, before I so rudely interrupted you, the book was written in black and white and color?
Yeah, the book was written in pictures and words. So Rose's story, but this young deaf girl, was told entirely in images. And because I wanted to try to tell the story of a deaf person through a visual language that would parallel the way a deaf person experiences the world, because even sign language is a visual language, something that you look at. And then the other story is told all in text, and these two stories weave back and forth until they join up at the end. So when I was adapting the screenplay, I was trying to figure out a way to find a cinematic equivalent of those two differences. So it became a story in black and white and silence, and a story in color and sound that would then weave back and forth.
So if I understand well, the script came first. You wrote it on spec just after you wrote the book?
Yeah.
And then you called on Christine Vachon and John Sloss and Todd Haynes and everybody else?
After I finished the book, Sandy Powell, who I met on Hugo, was staying at our house in San Diego, and she pulled my book off the shelf and read the book and opened it and said, this should be a movie for Todd Haynes. And so that's really where it all began. And then John Logan, who had written the screenplay for Hugo, agreed to give me some advice because I'd never written a screenplay before. And I wrote the screenplay, but yeah, essentially it was just, I was writing it secretly at night. I didn't tell anybody. And then when it was finished, I gave it to Sandy. Sandy introduced me to, actually, Todd and I met before he actually read the script, so we had the opportunity to meet through Sandy, which was really wonderful, at a David Bowie exhibition. And then Todd said yes.
Todd, pick it up from here.
Well, this script was pretty extraordinary. This is Brian's first adaptation of any of his books to a screenplay, and clearly Brian's love of cinema and understanding and passion for film permeated the concept of the script. And so it was an intensely cinematic idea on page. And you could imagine, it was very much about the intercutting between these two stylistic timeframes and storylines. And it paid acute attention on the page to sound and the experience of music versus auditory sound in the color story. So for a filmmaker, it was a sort of, irresistible piece of material to think about. And it was also something I'd never really done before that focuses on the imagination of kids, the stories of kids, and is sort of constructed like a true mystery, where clues are leading you forward along the journey between these two stories. And in fact, the formal conceit is at the core of the mystery. Why are these two stories sharing one movie, and what is the answers that will ultimately, you're going to get them in the film. So it pulls you through the story to figure out why they're being shared by one film.
Now, comes the turn for the producers. Did you say to Todd, you're simply out of your mind, taking that kind of a project on, or did you say, whatever you want to do, we will?
I think I always say, whatever you want to do, we will. So, but this one, this one had some specific challenges, the two different time periods. We knew it required a certain level of production that was pretty new for both of us, which is why it was so extraordinary to have this incredible creative team with us.
Was it easy to shoot at the Museum of Natural History?
No, nothing in the film was particularly easy, but it was an incredible honor and privilege to shoot in the actual Museum of Natural History, which was a tricky thing just to get approvals for. We had to load in and out every time we shot there, so we couldn't leave lights overnight. So there were logistical problems that that sort of dogged the film all the way through, that our production team managed. Starting with Mark Friedberg, our production designer, but playing on through Brian Bell, our producer, and Tim Bird, my AD. Because we had two kids, and you have limited hours per day with kids, we really had to shoot a little bit of 1927 and a little bit of 1977 every day to complete a day of shooting, which you can imagine is a logistical challenge for a film like this.
Right, Anne. We'll take questions now. Okay, Peter Howell.
Good morning, Peter Howell from the Toronto Star. Congratulations on Wonderstruck. Question for Todd Haynes. Todd, you seem to have a fascination with stories set in the past. I'm wondering, is it because you want to get away from the digital distractions of today? I mean, if you'd updated this today, the kids would have been using Snapchat and smartphones, but you wanted to avoid that?
Well, there are many reasons why the past continues to inform us, inspire me, motivate the kind of filmmaking, and force me, or give me always a good excuse to look back at film history and continue to be a student of film history as a director. But really, this film is also a tribute to what you do with your hands, with your fingers, you know? Like everything from sign language to building miniature buildings that Rose loves to do as a kid, to little Ben's fascination with natural history shelves that he creates in his room. And this plays out thematically through the film, and they finally find themselves both at the Museum of Natural History and ultimately at the Queen's Museum panorama of the miniature of Manhattan. So it's really a tribute to, you know, the tactile and the glue and the ink on your fingertips that I remember having on mine as a kid. And that's something I think kids still need to do, kids still love to do, and we can learn a lot from the love of making things with your hands.
I love doing those things.
See?
I'm not a Snapchat nerd, so.
Question to the youngest generation. Todd, how was it to direct them, considering they have completely different requirements? And B, Julianne, Michelle, how do you react to the way or the freshness with which they come to the set every day?
Well, the kids, you're talking about the kids.
Yes.
Well, of course, this was all about the imagination, the vitality, the challenges, the complexity of kids. And the film, I really wanted to honor what I think young audiences can handle in a movie. I think they can handle a film that has this kind of complexity and dimension to it. And that these are two kids, little Ben and little Rose, who are isolated from their lives and their families, but have something that is driving them and forces them into the world to discover answers to these questions and discover really who they are. And so casting the kids was a central part of that whole puzzle, obviously. And what I really wanted, what Laura Rosenthal, my casting director I've worked with on many movies, and I said from the beginning was like, we really have to try to cast a deaf girl to play Rose. It will, we wanted somebody fantastic, but we wanted to start with the deaf community and really feel like we searched high and wide to find the best person. And we asked kids to send in self-tapes of themselves to audition, because you have to go sort of outside traditional circles to find actors within the deaf community in America. And it was just our incredible good fortune to find this girl, Millie, who from the very beginning, the very first time I saw her tape, I gulped and I shivered. And there was something about the integrity of her as a person that shone through, that was true, and ultimately you see on the screen. So our good fortune in finding Millie is can't be overstated. And then of course Jaden has done some acting, and as had Oaks Fegley, who plays Ben, who unfortunately can't be with us today. He's shooting a movie in New York. But these kids are amazing, and they taught us everything that we needed to know to make this film.
Millicent, how was it for you day by day? Working on the script before you started shooting, and B, on the daily basis when you shot?
every morning I would start, working on the script when we come at the movie. My mother would always wake me up very early. She says, it's time to work on your script. And that's how I would start. I'd start reading the script, and I never stopped reading it. It really is such a wonderful story. I just reread it. And I'd go, oh, stop reading ahead. I have to focus on today's scene. I just got lost in the story every day, and it was such an honor to work with Todd as a director. He's so easy to work with and so friendly, so warm, and I can't say it enough. It was such an honor. I can't even find the words to explain what it was like to work with you, Todd. I never dreamt that my life would come here to this, and I can't thank you enough. And everyone else in the movie, it was such a wonderful working with everyone. The crew was so friendly, so welcoming, and I actually will miss this moment. This is a moment I will never, never forget. Thank you so much.
Jaden? Jade, sorry.
Okay, so the question was, how was it working with Todd?
To simplify it, yes.
Yes, again, it was just such of an honor, like Millie said, and I remember like 2 years before working and meeting you, I was like, I saw Carol, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I went on to IMDb and I saw a photo of you. I'm like, yeah, he looks cool. And here I am now, and it's like, wow. And I just loved how you were so okay with me wanting, like, if I had an idea, and Oaks too, if he had an idea about, oh, can we try this? And you were like, yeah, go ahead, let's try one. Like, it was magical.
Michelle, Julianne?
I'm just listening right now. I'm just listening, which is actually I think very much what it's like to work with kids. I love working with kids, and I also love working for kids. I love making movies that are expressly for children to see, because I remember being that age when you're so porous and things can really, you absorb them on so many levels, and I watch it happen to my daughter, and so I've wanted so much to be a part of, I've wanted so much to make things that figure into an early imagination that then grow up a certain kind of adult. So it's a real honor to work with these kids, and it's a real honor to just sit here and listen to them, which is what I wanted when I went to work every day.
I have to say, one of the things that I love the most about my job, and that I noticed right away as a working professional, is that an actor is an actor regardless of their age or their experience. When you meet an actor on a set, you right away are meeting a peer, and it happens if they're, if they're 7 or if they're 12 or if they're 75, right away you're asked to play ball. And that's what I love, is because everything dissolves. The way we categorize each other according to, age and gender and culture and all of those things completely disappear, and you actually meet a person on a very, very personal level. And that was what my experience was, working with Millie and working with Jaden and working with Oaks. You just had this experience of just being with just another, just 3 extraordinary actors.
Question here.
Hello, Ernesto Garrat from El Mercurio, Chile. Hi. Sorry, I cannot stand.
Okay, sorry.
I just want to note to Mrs. Julianne Moore how easy was working with kids. I want to go deep in that, especially in the language sign. And how do you develop your character? And also I want to know about this upcoming project with Chilean director Sebastián Lelio, in order to know how attach you this kind of characters, because always in your movie you build great characters, and this movie called Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had an extraordinary opportunity in this film to two different parts in two different time periods. And it was so interesting to hear Todd talk about the idea of making things and building things. And for me, because of who I played and because of the genres in which I was participating within the film, the silent film genre, and then a theatrical genre, and then later on, a character in the 70s who spoke ASL, all of these, for me, I found that it boiled down to how we communicate and what kind of, what languages we use and how we effectively use our bodies, our hands, ourselves, without spoken English. So that was a first. So I'm like, so it's sort of, once again, that thing I said about actors being actors, regardless of age or gender or culture or whatever. That's what I learned about language and expression and communication, is that you're always, as a human being, looking for a way to communicate, be it verbally or visually or with sign or whatever. So that was what that whole process was about. And it was incredible. And I think, I was talking to my friend Lynette, who is signing right there, about this, and my teacher, Alexandria, and we're saying, like, how do you understand another culture? The people who understand culture are the ones who've been in both rooms. How do you get to be in both rooms? Sometimes you're born in one culture and you can live in another. I think for people who are in deaf families but are hearing, they're in both cultures. For me, as a hearing person, this is my first experience with deaf culture. And so I felt like I didn't get to be in both rooms, but I was allowed to stand in the doorway. And what that gave to me as an individual was tremendous. It completely changed the way that I saw it. So it was a great gift.
Sir.
Matt Hoffman, Film School Rejects. My question's for Julianne Moore and Todd Haynes. This is the third time you've worked together, the first in 15 years. I wonder if you could talk a bit about your working relationship and how that's changed from Safe to Far From Heaven to Wonderstruck. Thanks.
He's much meaner now.
This has been an amazing through line in my professional life, personal life, creative career. We were a lot younger when we did Safe. But I was stunned by this sense that I found a kind of soulmate, a creative soulmate, who understood this almost unimaginable character on the page of a script I'd written, and brought a dimension to it that I think I was still vaguely feeling out in a void. And she brought specificity and clarity to that role and made that film work in ways that conceptually it might have been an interesting idea, but it wasn't until there was this person interpreting it and bringing meaning and specificity to it that made that film land, in my opinion. And so this has just been a gift and a privilege of my life to continue to work with Julianne and to keep going back and sort of throwing her very different kinds of challenges each time. And it's actually the fourth film we did together. She also was in I'm Not There, which Michelle was in as well, the Dylan multi-character film, and played this hysterical sort of homage to Joan Baez that cracked me up so much I had to leave the room because I was laughing too much while I would ruin the tapes. But it's just been it's an amazing thing to find a partner in that way, creatively.
Question over there.
It's my God, what a privilege. What an incredible privilege, and what a shock for me to read this script so long ago and think like, oh my God, how am I going to get this part? I have to get this part, and to walk in and to meet this man and then have the privilege and the pleasure of making 4 movies with someone who I think is, honestly, he's an absolute genius and is better at placing an actor in a situation, Michelle and I were just talking about this, about you just feeling taken care of. You don't have to do anything in Todd's movies. He's done it all for you. He set it up technically, cinematically, linguistically. All you have to do is enter the world. So it has been a tremendous privilege and a pleasure to work with him.
Question over there, sir.
Hello, I have a question. I'm from Hungary, and I have a question for Mr. Haynes. In the movie, we see the parallel journeys of Rose and Ben in two different time periods. So, could you talk about the editing process of how this parallel connection works in the movie? Thank you.
Yeah, this film, which was edited by Afonso Gonçalves, who's not here with us, unfortunately, on this trip, was truly an editorial experience and cinematic experience. It's a film that really draws attention to the language of film in almost